What's going on, guys? Neil with Pope Culture here. We're going to do a little bit of a different style video today. I want to try this whole vlogging thing. And I want to talk a little bit directly to you parents out there. Share some thoughts that I have, especially right now during this COVID-19 pandemic. Let's go. First of all, I have to apologize for my lack of video posting lately. We're getting ready for the birth of our first child, our son, and that's taken up a lot of time. We're actually a day over from the due date as I'm filming this. Maybe I'll get the call while we're filming this. How cool would that be? But it's given me a lot of time to really think about, of course, what it's going to look like for me as I continue to work on being a parent, but then also some of the things I've seen from parents during this COVID-19 pandemic. So I want to talk a little bit about that today.
You want your breakfast? Should we go get some breakfast?
I'm not going to be the kind of guy that pretends to know everything about parenthood. I'm not. But what I am going to tell you I know an awful lot about is being Catholic during this pandemic. Pandemic.
Sit. The tail is the cutest thing. Good.
Because listen, I'll be the first one to say it. Being Catholic right now is hard. We don't have as easy of access to the sacraments. It's kind of a chore to go to Mass. I mean, we have to be masked and be socially distanced from everybody and, take all these precautions. I mean, that's true. And yet we're called to do it. We're called to be that witness to the world. And right now I'm not seeing that a lot from our parents. I haven't seen parents bringing their children to Mass again yet. I mean, yes, okay, don't get me wrong. There are a few parents out there who have been bringing their kids to Mass every week that I've been seeing at the parishes I serve. And I don't want to make any generalizations saying, oh, no parents are bringing their kids to Mass, because I know some of you are. And so I'm not trying to call you out. I'm not trying to be some holier than thou person, but when I see a problem in the church, in our culture really, that I think is becoming a part of our culture, I've got to speak about it. And right now, the fact that there are very few young families bringing their kids to Mass, that's a problem. That's a problem. Because what I do see are... Get out of here. Get out. Because what I do see are an awful lot of parents sending their kids to sports camps, going out to eat at your favorite restaurants. You are such a goofy dog. Goofy boy. And let me just be honest. If that's you, if you're taking your kids to all these places, allowing them to do all these things, and you're not bringing them to Mass, to the holy sacrifice of the Mass every weekend, there's something wrong with that. Sorry, I know you could hardly see me there, but it was too cute. Norbert is just an adorable dog. My point being, okay, if you're going to allow your children to go to these youth camps and go out and take risks by going out to eat and yes, you're still being masked and you're being socially distant, hopefully, and taking these precautions. If you're willing to do that, then why are you not willing to come to Mass? I think that's a real question that I want you to ask yourselves. Because let's be real here, people. The church is taking just as many precautions, just as many safety measures are in place at churches right now for Mass as anywhere else. It's not like we're skimping on safety. In fact, based on the experience I've had of going to Mass in my parish cluster, I would say that the church on a Sunday morning right now is about the safest place you can be in public. If you yourself are at risk, if your children are more at risk than they typically would be, I'm not talking to you. You're not the ones that I'm addressing this message to, okay? Because those are perfectly reasonable reasons not to come to Mass. But I think what has happened here, and that's really unfortunate, is that for a while we've been trending towards the idea of the Mass obligation not really being so obligated. We've seen a lack of parents and young families and children coming to Mass on the weekends. Even before all of this started, there's an irregularity to it, when in reality, we're called to go to Mass every single weekend. It's an obligation. We sin if we don't keep the Sabbath holy on purpose. And so what I see happening now is, now that that obligation has been lifted because of the pandemic, for good reason, because some people should not be obligated to go to Mass if you're at risk, a lot of folks have taken that as an excuse just not to come at all. My kids can go to sports camps. My kids can go to their sports practices. We're gearing up to go back to school, but no Mass. Just not there yet. I think what's happened is we've turned a reality and we've made it into what we perceive to be a legitimate excuse. But I'm telling you, if you're going out with your children on a regular basis into public spaces, if you're sending your children to, Norbert is eating grass right now as we speak, by the way, right next to the camera. If you are sending your kids to camps, to activities, and allowing for those things, you don't have an excuse not to be at Mass on Sunday. You don't. I'm really not trying to be the bearer of bad news here. I'm not trying to call you out. I'm not trying to be a jerk about this, but I think what you as parents forget, and what I've been reflecting on a lot, is as I start thinking about the birth of the approaching birth of our son, is that we make promises about how we're going to raise our children as Catholics. When our child is baptized, we make promises to God Himself that we're going to raise our children in the Catholic faith, that we're going to take seriously the obligation to attend Mass week in and week out, because that is the most important thing that we can do as Catholics to continue to nurture the faith life of ourselves, of course, but also of our children. So when we just kind of loosey-goosey stop coming to Mass, and when we stop taking that obligation seriously, we're damaging ourselves, and probably even more sadly, is the truth is that we're damaging our children spiritually. We're not giving them the chance that they deserve to come to know God. And I want you parents to really think about that and reflect on that. If you take nothing else from this video, if you are just mad at me, be mad at me, but really seriously think about, if you haven't been taking that Sunday obligation seriously, if you haven't been bringing your kids back to Mass, but you allow them to go to these other activities, think about those promises that you made at their baptism, when you said, yes, I will raise them in the one holy Catholic and Apostolic Church. I will do what it takes, whatever it takes, to help them reach salvation in heaven one day. I want you to really pray about that and think about that, because that's something I've been praying about a lot too. Again, as we get ready, my wife and I, to have our first son, we have to think about these things. We have to pray about these things. We have to bring them to the Lord. And I just know that with where a lot of us are at spiritually right now, with all the difficulties swirling around with this pandemic too, we cut corners, and we have to stop cutting those corners. And it starts with going to Mass on Sundays, praying with our kids every single day, and continuing to work on our own relationships with the Lord. Because this life, as bad as all this stuff is, this life is not it, friends. This is not it. We have eternal life in heaven to look forward to. And it's time we start taking that seriously. Hope you have a great week. Thanks for tuning in to Pope Culture. Follow us here on YouTube, Instagram. Check out our podcast on any of your favorite streaming platforms, Pope Culture Podcast. Go to our website. We've got merch there. Merch! And we'll look forward to seeing you in the next video. God bless you. Toodles.